Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at Bitcoin then, and Bitcoin and only Bitcoin, and Bitcoin it is. So basically, I know that there's a lot of distractions going on at the moment, you know, XRP and whatnot. I mean, let's just marvel at that for a second. So looks like things are changing. What is going on? Doesn't take me too much by surprise, but let's have a look at Bitcoin and what's actually going on with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin continuing, I would say, with a push up, and for the moment rejected at the top of the Bollinger Band. That's no big deal. This Bollinger Band has been pretty flat as a pancake for quite a little while now, same as the center of the Bollinger Band. The whole thing has just been in a sideways channel. It's kind of allowed for altcoins to do their thing here, there, and everywhere. But now I think it is getting ripe now for a push up. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to happen today or this weekend at all, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't come without a dump. As we can see that now we've moved up above this resistance zone, which is about 59,000, give or take. Yeah, it's a rough figure, you know, give or take a few hundred. 59,000 has been the resistance zone, and we've just pushed above there for the first time. We've not closed there. This candle isn't yet closed. Anything could happen to this candle, but provided we're above the center of the Bollinger Band, which is at 56,750 or thereabouts, it's still looking pretty good. And even if it's not, sideways action is probably going to be good for alts in the short term until it chooses a direction. If we have a look at the MACD, it doesn't know which way it wants to go. Technically, it's curving up, but it's not particularly strong. But that's fine. I mean, when we've gone sideways for such a prolonged period of time, which is what it has, it's gone sideways for a reasonable long period of time. The MACD is not going to give you a great deal of insight as to what's actually going on. So, the bottom line is we still have this uptrend in play. This large uptrend is still in play. This could be considered a giant bull flag, and also a rising wedge, to which we have broken out of today. We broke out of here before though, remember, and we came down quite significantly. So let's not get too overexcited. 18% pullback from the last time we broke out of this area. It technically wasn't really a wedge at the time, but it certainly is now. And I've always stood by what I say when these wedges happen. The longer it takes for us to break out, usually the weaker the move. So I also wouldn't be surprised if we did have a pullback all the way down to the bottom of the wedge again, maybe even break below it. To test these lower areas and then bounce. I'll give you an example of what that would look like actually. When everybody's seeing the same thing, sometimes, you know, it's the opposite that happens. So if we just go back and have a look at this. Let's have a look at this. So we had, on this instance, this is Binance coin, we had a wedge, didn't we? We had a wedge, and we were bouncing from the top, coming down to the bottom, coming to the apex, and it looked as though we were going to break out. Where was that? I suppose it was here, wasn't it? It looked like there was going to be a breakout, and then there wasn't, and it broke down all the way down to the bottom of this Bollinger Band. From there, it picked up. It picked up dramatically, didn't it? And it's gone now 112%. So wedge formations in general, especially, you know, when you're drawing lines on screens, that they sometimes, I suppose it's the first thing people learn to do when they're doing TA, and it's not the most important. It's rarely something I would do. I do it to show an example, I suppose, but for me it's all about the positioning of the size of the Bollinger Band, positioning of the moving averages, which aren't really in any kind of bullish format. We could be looking at an uptrend beginning from here, and if that's the case, that'd be great. We'll be moving into the 60s, upper 60,000 zone. And then I would actually get a little concerned about how far it's going and how fast it's going. Now we do have a conversion baseline cross here on the daily. That's a bullish sign, but you know, unfortunately the Chiku span is in the price action, so that is cancelled out in a way. And also we've had a few of these, you know, happen, and then they cancel, and then they happen again. So, you know, at this level, how useful is the Ichimoku cloud? I mean, we're above it, and that's fine. You know, it's green, that's good. But as far as signals are concerned, it's not that I don't trust it. It is something to go by, but it's also nothing as well. So what we still see, and again, this is the overall picture that I'm seeing. What we still see is a flat sideways performing Bitcoin with the potential to break out. And if we look at the weekly, it kind of puts things into a bit more perspective. We are looking to close the week with the highest candle so far ever. And if this does close like this, I would probably expect a continuation towards the top of this Bollinger Band on the weekly, whether that be next week or at some point before we have a significant breakdown, which is what I think is likely to happen reasonably soon. So this takes us all the way up to the top area of, basically touching 70,000. That's where I would think that things might get pretty heated and overextended. And the reason I say that is because we do have this bearish divergence on the weekly. Just move that a bit more appropriately. Bearish divergence on the weekly. I would expect that the closer we get to this trend line, I'm not expecting to touch it and then sell everything the second we tick on it. The closer we get to it, the more overextended it would be, and I would expect a rejection as we get closer to this trend line. We also see the same thing on the 3 daily as well, and that also, I suppose, concerns me to an extent. We've not seen a correction with Bitcoin yet, you see. It's not actually corrected. We do have bearish divergence on the 3 daily and on the weekly from January, where Bitcoin started to get a little bit dicey with these pullbacks. So pullbacks are one thing; these recover relatively quickly. A genuine consolidation would last a little longer and go a little deeper. And I suppose the obvious target for that would be the 20 weekly, which is actually quite high, coming in around about $40,000. $40,000 from where we are at right now isn't the worst thing in the world. We've seen worse pullbacks than that. That's a 32% retracement. That's no big deal. But if we were to move up to the top, we're talking about 70,000 or beyond. So we'll just go to the top of this Bollinger Band, that would be a 42% retracement. So these things are very likely, in my opinion, to actually carry out. And when we think about it in those terms, 42% retracement is not massive. Obviously, it's more than you would want if you were still holding on to the position or having to ride this out as a hodl. It's still quite a lot. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much at all, to be honest with you. Considering how far we've come, we can handle that. The problem would be is that if this does happen and it blows its top off beyond 70,000, and goes really crazy, the longer it would take to consolidate before the next big move, which, like I say, but that's all speculation. At the moment, I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I definitely am bullish on Bitcoin. We could be looking for new all-time highs later on today, certainly by next week, but don't expect that to come without some form of pullback. Pullbacks, in my opinion, at this stage, are probably just another opportunity to go long or to buy back. I really am thinking that this is looking quite positive, but warning signals are there, and this is what I was saying on the live stream yesterday. There are warning signals across the board with many altcoins and Bitcoin itself. Bearish divergence taking place on weeklies, 3 dailies, on all time frames. So there's only so far I think it can go before we do have a genuine correction, but I don't think we're quite ready for it at this specific moment. I think it's likely to go higher and then correct over a longer period of time. Anyway, that's my little 2 cents for you. Let's enjoy the pump while it goes on, especially those of you who are in XRP and BNB and all these others that are pumping. Join my Telegram. It's free, but if you want a little bit more, you can join the Patreon. 2 live streams a week, £7.50 a month, 16 hours worth a month. For £7.50, you can't really complain with that. Anyway, I hope you have a nice weekend. Take it easy.